topic. We are no longer, listen to this, we're no longer climbing the ladder. We are owning it. I absolutely love this. Kelly Resendez is here with us tonight. Kelly, how are you?
I am fantastic, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for being here. So, you talk in your work about having big voices, right? And instead of women trying to climb that corporate ladder or climbing to their success, like we're owning it now. Tell us about that. Like what is that for you? And why is it important for you to do this work?
Yeah, so first of all, I just firmly believe in my heart the world will be a better place with more feminine energy brought to the table.
Yes.
And we just think differently, and it's not we're better than, worse than, we're different. We need men, we need masculine energy, but we also need to get to this place where we make broader decisions. We look at the impact that what our companies are doing have on the planet, have on the people, and we filter things through that lens. And quite frankly, so many decisions are filtered through profitability only. And there, there's a disparate impact to the planet and to the people. And so I firmly believe that it's much easier for us to start companies than it is to rewire ones that have the old regime of leadership style. Because I think women, what we found is that we want to have it all. I wanted to be a great mom. I wanted to be a great, friend. I wanted to take care of my self-care, and a lot of opportunities at the executive level or above don't give you that flexibility. You have to trade one for the other. And there are a lot of companies, like, for example, I've been with Goodleap for 13 and a half years. Like, I get to have it all because I have a CEO that was raised by a single mom that works here, and we are, pro family. We're pro balance. And so you really have to be thoughtful about where you hang your hat career wise in order to be able to get to that next level.
I love that. Do you think that as you climb that ladder, right? Is that where the mom guilt sets in, and the because we do, like, ambitious women,
Oh,
it's like we want to have a career, we want to be a good mom, we want to be a good partner to our partners, right? We want to be a good friend, we want to be at the PTA meetings, and but I feel like it's easier in that case for our self-care to go out the window as women. But I also feel like it leads us to feel this, like, just constant sense of
yeah.
guilt.
Yeah. I think number one, the first thing that we want to recognize is guilt is an option.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose to live without guilt. And my priorities in my life, the first thing that I would tell you is that my greatest desire is to be present wherever I am.
I
The
love that.
second thing that I would say is take the freaking shoulds and throw them out. Like, I should
Yeah.
do this and I should do that. And, like, you know what? Eat. Like, it's just one of those things that there are nights that I got a DoorDash. Like, that's the capacity level that I have. Now, if I do, I'm going to choose something healthy. I'm not going to throw out health as a, price for the convenience that offers. But what I would say is that there is an innate belief that as you grow in your career, that you do have to let some of these things go. And that's why it's so important to start with a vision for how you want to feel in your life before you make decisions. And then really align that vision with your priorities so that you take the seat of creator. Like, take the seat of, I'm going to create my life. Like, yeah, society can tell me what I should be doing, but no, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to create the life that I really love. And I do believe we can have a lot of ands. I can be an executive and co-own a mastermind and speak and write and be a great mom and a great friend and a great partner one day, I hope. And there's just so many things that I can be, but I have to believe it. And if I am limited by the nonsense of beliefs that have been handed down from generations, then I'm gonna sit in that state of having an upper limit in my life. I just choose to live without it.
I love that you said that upper limit, right? And I think there was a point for me where I felt that wall, and I had to realize it was, and I call it the self-imposed glass ceiling, because
Oh,
no one told me
Yeah.
that it was
Yeah.
there. I told myself from,
Yeah.
that's how I interpreted all the programming that was coming into me, and, messages like that was through my filter and my
Yeah.
lens. But I hit this point in my career where I'm like, wait a minute, why can't I go further than this?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I told myself I couldn't. And
Yeah.
I had to also then reprogram out of like that
Oh,
self-imposed. And I'm like, no, I'm breaking
yeah.
through this. And
Yeah.
that's
And when you
when that
name it,
promotion came from.
I think when you name it, Elizabeth, I'm grateful that I read The Big Leap. And then I
Oh,
wrote,
amazing.
read Conscious Loving, because both of them really expose this psychological phenomenon that most even psychologists don't talk to you about. Like, nobody tells you that you have that self-imposed glass ceiling, and society's also put the same thing on you,
Yes.
from where you're educated to so many things. And I just believe in that power that when we're in authenticity, and we're aligned with our purpose, and we're doing world positive work, we have limitless possibilities. Like, just, oh my gosh, so expansive, like miracles happen. I'm a big proponent of that, excited to share more on that. I'm doing a documentary in the next month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's called The
Yeah.
Frequency of Miracles, with some great producers. And, really just, I think we just need to embody this next level of like, I don't need to do what I've been trained to do. Like, breaking free of my good girl, breaking free of your opinion of me. I do not care. Like,
Yes.
seriously, you want to call me harsh? Oh, okay. Like, gaslight somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
I am not going to live in a world anymore in which I allow myself or others to put any limit on my potential.
Oh, I love that. I think it's important, especially whatever shape we let our businesses go, right? Something that we will need to wrestle with is this concept of like being the liked boss
Yeah.
versus being respected, and letting
Yeah.
people have their own opinions
Yeah.
of who we are. But at the end of the day, if the work is um, coming from the right place, intention,
Oh,
and there's certain things that need to happen in our business to make that work, it comes down to, building that aligned team
yes.
to try to avoid some of that. But at the end of the day, your team needs to respect you. And I
Yeah.
think that can be a hard place for women to wrestle with as well, as we're having difficult conversations and trying to coach people into the
Yeah.
next level. And it's all part of
That's
it.
a great point. Like, I think when you radiate from a place of authenticity and abundance, and that not everyone is meant to work together forever, like, we lose the attachment to the people. We provide them the support, but we also know what we need in our business to make it run. And so in the event that there is a separation, you separate in such a loving way and such a knowing way that this is not the right fit for them. Because if it was, they would be thriving in whatever that they're doing. And so laying that foundation up front, like, hey, I know when you come into a new role, you're going to give it your all and you're going to do your best. And sometimes that wears off. And I want to make sure that we're aligned, that I'm going to hold you accountable. Like, I always, when I speak, a lot of times I say, like, how many times as a parent have you said to a kid coming off the soccer field or the football field or whatever, like, did you do your best? And I'm like, could you imagine if your kids were waiting outside of the door when you leave work? Like, did you do your best today? It's like, no, I completely lost 20 minutes on Facebook accidentally. And then I ate something that I, just wasn't planning on eating, and then this happened and that happened, and I wasn't my best when someone came to me with a conflict. I took it personally initially. Like, I think those are the types of conversations that we want to have with people, because doing our best is how we should show up on a daily basis. And most people, accidentally choose the mediocre way, like the lazy way, and you're not going to get next level until you get to that place of like, you know what, I need to find the right role that really feeds my soul so that I can give to it and give to it and give to it some more.
Yes, I love it. Um, there's, I want to I have like so many questions for you. I want to make sure that we talk about sort of step back a minute and backtrack to sort of how you got to this moment.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit about your background and how you found Go Abundance for Women
Yeah.
and just, yeah, give us a little bit about your
Totally.
backstory.
Yeah. Grew up in a small town in Northern California, and I was seriously your classic overachiever. First one who would raise their hand to answer or just do anything. And so people say, when did I start, speaking in public? And I'm like, it was at a young age. I was like, you want to read in mass, pick me. You want to do this, pick me. I was just that kid. And so I embodied that as being a part of my worth. And I definitely was trying to prove it over and over again and wanted that praise and depended on that praise. And it served me very well, especially early on in my career. I got into the mortgage industry and within a few short years was in the top 1% of loan officers in the nation and had an amazing team and it very competitive. There's like dashboards of like where other people in your company were and presidents clubs traveling all over the world and like, oh, is that the Kelly Resendez or whatever, and it just like it fed the beast, let me tell you. But I was absolutely empty inside. As much as I loved helping people, I didn't love the work. I didn't love what I was actually doing. And I just kept feeling this rumbling right inside of me. And in 2002, my mom got diagnosed with dementia at a really early age of 57. My grandmother passed away from cancer, where I only had a couple short months from finding out, you never anticipate. And then in 2003, I had my daughter. And I believe the first present moment that I'd ever had of like feeling content and in the moment was with her. And it broke me open. And I literally had to rewrite my story. It started me down this path of consciousness and personal development, in which I've never stopped. It's 20 years in. And for anyone that thinks there's an ending, like you will get bam, knocked down again. Thank goodness I have that resiliency that I can get knocked down. I'm in a knockdown state right now, I will be honest with you. And yet I can keep moving forward because of the gifts that, I would say this consciousness path is given to me. And along the way, I left that career and joined this amazing company, Good Leap. We're one of the largest solar financing and home improvement financing companies and do good. I'm an executive. And then over time, wrote a couple books while I've been here, have always continued to speak and share, some of the tools and strategies that I've used in my own life to create abundance and inner peace. And then found myself in a place of just extreme loneliness where I was like, I have so many amazing guy friends. Like I had so many amazing people around me, but I didn't have any women on the professional side that I felt kind of supported me. So I probably did give myself permission to play small. And so one of my big things is asking for help. And I just started to talk to a few people about it. And I heard about masterminds and Go Abundance Men had been around for years and did a little bit of research and found out that they were interested in doing a women's group. And so I joined another one called M1, which I had an amazing experience with M1, where they're like a brother company to Go Abundance Women. And then a few of us all came together in San Diego and formed Go Abundance Women. And here we are years later with hundreds of women that, are a part of the mastermind community and really it's a powerful group of enlightened women that are ambitious and really want to get to that next level of accelerating growth in their lives. So just absolutely fun. I'm working on my third book right now too, which is really fun and exciting and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
I love that you said like you're never done with this work.
Oh,
It and
never
it's
done.
true. Like you
No.
think you get to this point where you're like, oh, I'm past this, and then the universe brings you full circle back into a space
Mhm.
where you're like, they slap you upside the head, and you know, I always
Yeah,
tell people like it's like a spiral more than like a linear path because
yeah,
you're coming at it from like this new level of consciousness, and so that lesson, that moment is coming back to you for a completely different reason, but you're also able to heal a completely different part of yourself because now you're a different person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your filter is constantly changing.
Absolutely. And you're spot on. You know, sometimes when you're like, oh, I'm like at the past the point of being triggered by anything. And it's like, oh, the next person that comes into your life is going to be the most triggering you've ever had. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
staying humble in the journey. I mean, there's a few pieces to abundance, and that's what I speak on most is really how to stay in abundance through different practices. And one of the practices is non-judgment. And I think as humans, we've been raised to judge, and we don't even recognize the judgments that we pass on a regular basis from the person that might be wounded, and they're at their capacity, they're doing the best they can. And yeah, they wounded you or affected you, but at the same time, like cultivating that compassion that, man, it must be hard for them too. And so, you know, I believe fully that when we go through darkness or that bottom or that, you know, phoenix rising from the ashes moment in our life, that we find ways to transcend that into new, you know, new ways of impacting other people. And my season has really taught me this new level of humility and understanding of women that find themselves lowering their standards for or proving their worth or people pleasing or any of these other codependent, you know, type things that we can do. And now this compassion that I have will enrich in how I support people. But dang, is it challenging when we're in it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a feel the feels. I will not distract myself. I will not, you know, I will sit in that fire with, you know, my 2-year-old self or my 4-year-old self or whatever wound is in there that wants the praise and wants the success all the time. And the truth is, like, I'm not failing enough in my life. You're probably not failing enough in your life. Like, we really, in order to get to next level, you got to put yourself out there. You got to, you know, face the fire of things might not work out, and I might fall flat on my face, and my brain might ruminate and cost me a lot of nights sleep, and I might be in fetal position for a minute, but like, gosh darn it, like, I'm going to keep going after this next
Yes.
in life. And it's
Absolutely.
scary for most people.
It
Because they're like,
absolutely is.
no, like in their brain is like, no, like I need to make sure you're breathing. Like that could affect you. I don't want you to take those risks. And so like studying neuroscience for me is what got me to the next level. Having a neuroscience coach then like further expands it. That can really help me translate. Like, okay, my amygdala is hijacked. Oh yeah, it is absolutely, you know, in this state of survival, and here's what it's doing right now. And I can pull back and just witness my thoughts. I can witness my nervous system rather than just being in it with them. I can just sit back and be like, it's okay. Like, we're gonna get through this. Like, I know you're feeling it, you know, and I'm right here.
I love it. That pause is such a key to get to that point where you can literally just
Yeah,
take that step back,
yeah,
pause
yeah.
a
But we've
second.
been trained to do,
Yeah.
go, do, and do. And most of us are addicted to the productivity and achievement space. And we think if we let go that we're not gonna have everything. I am here to tell you, you will have more. You will have
Right.
more. Like you will like expand to levels that you never thought possible because you're vibrating at that place. Like I tell people, I am doing holy work. You want to knock me down? Like I am going to get up again. I have the strongest, you know, power behind me and force that I'm going to ensure that I keep doing what I'm doing. And so it's so important that we do ground ourselves in breath and really just being present, because most people don't know how to sit with that. They got to do something.
It's interesting to me because we're talking, there's almost, it almost seems like we're talking about two different sides of the coin, right? Where we're like, we can take a pause and we can relax, but at the same time we still keep going. And as an entrepreneur, like when you're getting into business, you have to be able to build that resiliency as
Yes.
part of the process of building and creating. And I always tell people, like, failure is not failure. Failure is data. Um,
Mm,
use it that
beautiful.
way, reframe it,
Yep.
because if you just look and go, I failed, we can get stuck there really,
Yeah.
really easy. But
Yeah.
use it as another KPI. Like, it's literally
Yep.
just another
Yep.
metric as to
Yeah.
what worked and what different didn't, and you can change it. Um, so we're not saying like take the pause and stay pause.
Yeah.
We're saying like let yourself come out of the fear, the ego, the
Yep.
judgment, and then you can keep going from a different perspective, a different place. You bring a different
Mhm.
energy in your next step. And I think
Yeah.
it's really easy because we are doers, that we want to just go, 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 that we think we have to have everything figured out.
Yeah.
But we really just need the next step.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that this isn't about being completely in our right brain, and it's not about being completely in our left brain. It's about tapping into the whole brain and being able to create the experience that feels most natural and authentic for us. Because if you're burning out and you're pushing past your human capacity, which so many people do because they're in front of a screen or they're doing these other things, like, I need to balance that with connection. So I'm really thoughtful about how I build my meetings, and I can have some of these connection calls that like really feed, the part of me that wants to impact and live in my purpose, but I get to do that in my role as well. And so you do have to also know and acknowledge that sometimes there's seasons where you can, as long as you call it like, hey, if I'm building a business, I am going to put the pedal to the metal for a season, because I know that with that sacrifice, but I'm never, like, this is a capital N, never going to sacrifice my self-care or emotional or physical well-being. Those still come first. But I know that there's seasons that I might need to, I mean, I've gone dark on friends for a year, and I've let them know like, hey, I'm in a deep reflection, space in my life right now, and I really only have time for my kids in my work, and I'm finishing a book. So I don't want you to take it personally. I'm here if there's a crisis, but I'm really going off radar because it was a season that I needed to for myself. Number one, I wanted to decide what I really wanted to do, because I filled so much time with things that I like came away from. I'm like, did that really like feel fantastic, or did I just do it out of obligation or because I've just always done it? And so it gave me that lens of being able to recreate a life in which I really, enjoy and spend time doing the things with the people that I want to be doing. But there are seasons that you're gonna have to drive. And then there's seasons where you can put your feet up on the desk and you've built this machine or whatnot, and it's running really smoothly.
I love it. I love it. Talk to us about finding your big voice.
Ooh, love it. So for me, I'm big on having a picture of something that's demonstrative of what's kind of going on in our brain so that it's easy to have self-awareness. And so I kind of have this big voice, and then I have a little voice, right? My big voice is my highest, most authentic self, and my little voice is going to be that wounded child or whatnot, and could be a little bit of ego mixed in there too. And so what I've learned to do is to not trust my thoughts or my emotions. I filter them through, is this big voice or is this little voice? Because a lot of our thoughts and emotions come from that wounded part of us. And so rather than shame them, blame them, be angry that it's happening, I just like, hey, I see you, I hear you, but I got this. Everything's always working out okay for us. Like, I know you want everyone to like and love you, and that's just not possible right now. And so we're gonna sit in the fire with this, this extreme amount of whether it's hatred or whatever it might be in your life during that season. And so I would just tell you that, in between the big and little voice, a lot of times I kind of call it like the thoughts in the middle. Some of them are like, why does that keep coming up? Like, no, I am doing this. I am this is what I'm doing. And then there's some little voice that keeps guiding you to do something else or do something else, whether it's send a message or do this or do that. And I sit on those a little while, where before I probably would react pretty quickly. And now I'm just like, oh, if that comes up a few times, like that's a nudge. You should do something about this one. And I want you to explore that a little bit more. And sometimes that means that I'm going to write another book on this. I got that nudge recently and it was like, well, I started writing a fourth book while I was on my third book. I'm like, well, how did that just happen? Well, it just kept coming up. And it's like, I don't have that much space for you right now, but at least I have formulated the outline of what it will become, in the future. And so I think one of our greatest gifts to the human experience is really living from your heart, using your brain to your advantage, but not letting your brain use you. And nobody tells you you're not your brain. Nobody says when you're 4 years old, like you're not your brain, like you are going to get some thoughts that start firing, you're like free. And then all of a sudden your frontal lobe turns on and you're like, oh, did Elizabeth just look at me weird? Does she not like me? Like, well, maybe she doesn't like me because of this, when really you just haven't eaten a sandwich and there's nothing wrong, but I own it. And I start to take on, maybe people pleasing, or how do I make sure that she's okay? I'm going to give up my own, well-being right now to make sure she's okay. And there's so many different things that we take on in our lifetime that most of us spend forever. I would say unwinding them. My greatest intention as a parent was to keep my children awake. And they're 19 and 21, and I could not be more blessed that I have very conscious, empathetic, caring children that also want to make an impact in the world.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so it's difficult though, with society and cell phones and, Fortnite and all the other things that I went
Yeah.
through while they were growing up. But it is a strong intention that we must set for ourselves if we're going to bring children into the world, or they will model what they see.
Oh, so true. They actually are like little sponges, and they
They
just
are,
pick up everything that's around them.
yeah,
And so we do need to lead by example in terms of parenting, and really be aware of how we're showing up and what we're putting
yes,
out. Um,
yes.
Tell us about self-sabotage. How do we stop self-sabotaging ourselves, Kelly?
Oh my goodness, I wish there was like a magic bullet that was like, dang, you are not gonna stand in your again. It starts with awareness. It just really starts with like when the process that I walk people through in GoBundance and when I coach is that, again, we start with a vision for how we want to feel, and then we create actionable goals based off of the priorities that we have in our life during that season. And where self-sabotage comes up, number one, if you don't do goals and you don't write them down, you're already sabotaging yourself. Like, because your brain needs a roadmap, it needs guidance, it needs direction, or it's going to do whatever it thinks that it's supposed to be doing, which is just wants you to breathe and, detoxify and do all of the things that it does. And so that's where we want to start is in that self-awareness. So once we get and really just have an idea of how we want to feel and what our goals are, we'll notice like where self-sabotage shows up. Like, do I make excuses? Do I, am I in this place where I am, procrastinating? I'm giving myself permission to delay. I'm just doing all of these other things. And so what I would say is that within self-sabotage, there's just a whole menu of ways that we sabotage ourselves, from people pleasing to perfectionism or to other ones like that. But the greatest ones that I really see with women especially are, number one, we aren't vulnerable enough to ask for help.
Mm.
And so we think we are doing it alone. And when we believe that, we're already limiting success. Like every day, I want to ask you what I can do to support you. I want you to ask me that. I'm making introductions and connections on a daily basis. I'm trying to, make a bigger impact in the world. And so you've got to get out there and you really need to be clear on what you need help with. Like, what's the next best connection that's going to elevate you professionally or personally? And I want you to tell everyone about it. the second huge way that I would say that we really sabotage ourselves is not being careful about who we keep in our proximity. We need to be thoughtful about having a board of directors in our life. And so that's part of what Go Abundance Women does, is we put you into a pod with 4 to 5 other women that help hold you accountable, but also push you to the next level of like, well, what's next? Instead of what, you're going to do that, like, and really limit your own success with that. And so having that group of people around you is really, really impactful. So those are 2 of the top ways that I really see women sabotage themselves. But, the third is just not believing that you can create the life that you really want for yourself, and that you can have it all. And when you sabotage and limit your own success because of your belief system, that's when you want to hit Control Alt Delete. So that third step beyond getting your vision done and your goals is really choosing the mindset that is best for you. And I'm a big advocate of an abundance mindset. And, I believe you've got to practice it every single day. That's what my next book is on, is really just the practices that are going to keep you in abundance, so that when self-sabotage comes up, that you notice it. And so once we identify what it is, now we need a sabotage management, strategy that's just documented out. That's like, okay, I need some accountability here too. So, if I say I'm gonna, be healthy, and I let my kids know, and I have this plan that like, hey, it's 6 o'clock when there's no food in the house, and this is what happens. Like, I know my little voice is going to be like, just order the round table pizza. Like, it's fine. It'll just be for one day. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Have the margarita, or do this or do that. You've had a long day. And when I have really just focused on having this strategy around it, I'm like, oh, I see you. You're if you've ever read Untethered Soul, if you haven't, it's beautiful. It's like the roommate that shows up, right? I'm able to speak to the voice of sabotage. I'm able to say like, hey, appreciate ya, but I got this. I'm gonna go this direction instead. And I'm gonna choose health. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna do these other things. So you've got to be bigger. You've got to be bigger than the little voice that shows up to sabotage you in the long way, because it's just trying to protect you, and it's really trying to take like the easiest way forward.
Ooh, I love it. Because, how many of us get into that space, and then that one pizza, that one drink, or,
They add
fill
up.
in the blank, and then it leads to this spiral. And then before we know it, now we're back into the cycle of self-shaming,
Oh,
guilt,
that's exactly. It's such a cycle. And the American way is like every Monday I start a new diet. Like, I just gave that up, with my mom getting sick. There were clues in her health. There's no absolute. My mom had a very sporadic form of dementia called semantic dementia. And there were things that I knew if I did, that I'd have a much less chance of ever being in the same situation. And so I've really chosen in my health to be really strong in some of those things. Like, sleep is my greatest priority. Right. I plan around sleep. If I know I've got an early morning, I'm gonna force an early bedtime. I'm just really thoughtful about some of those things so that I can keep myself sharp enough to make the best decisions, because it's when we're exhausted. It's when we're exhausted that we don't. And so I chose this life to be like, I will never be on a diet. I will never talk about my weight. I haven't weighed myself since 2004, and I plan on never weighing myself again, because it's such an external, ridiculous number that really doesn't tell us what's going on in our physical being. And so, I think just to be an advocate for your own health is one of the greatest decisions that you can make. Like, I don't trust Western medicine. If I ever need it, I'll use it, but I practice functional medicine. I make sure my gut's healthy, my brain's healthy, my adrenal system's healthy. And, I haven't been sick since 2009. And I live this life that I feel fantastic physically the majority of the time. Like, and then I know, like, hey, I've traveled a lot lately. I feel my human capacity just shifting a little bit. Okay, how can I say no to more? I'm going to move some things. And I'm not afraid to say, hey, Elizabeth, I got to take a pass on this because this is what's going on in my life. But I think it's just making that decision for yourself that, I'm not going to be tethered by all of this nonsense with my health on the outside and allow it to, end up shaming me in the long run.
I love it. I mean, you've set some pretty clear boundaries with yourself so that you feel the way that you want
Yeah,
to feel, and you can show up for yourself, your
absolutely.
kids, your clients, your
Yeah,
everything. And that's important. It's an important call out because that's part of living that abundant life.
yeah. And then if you notice yourself drawn to some of these things that you know aren't healthy, it is a great indicator something's not going on inside. So I know a lot of your listeners are probably, perimenopause, menopause area. All of a sudden, when I started to go through the change, I started craving carbs. Like I had never craved carbs before. And what I found is as your estrogen levels go down, that's a very common thing. And that's where a lot of the weight gain can come from. And it's little, right? It's just these incremental things of eating when I was eating healthy carbs, but they were carbs nonetheless. And so just noticing it and then getting my hormones rebalanced, I'm like, I don't have a single craving again, So it's been really powerful for me with that.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to know, to you, what does an abundance mindset mean and look like?
Yeah.
Because I think it's different for everybody.
It is. It is. For me personally, it's just that feeling of having more than enough resources, love, time, energy, money. I think money, we don't talk about money enough. I think it's an important part of the energy that we have in the world. Like the impact that I get to make is affected by the amount of money that I bring in. And so really being in this place of just knowing like my full power, that I am the creator of my own success. I'm also the creator of my own pain a lot of times too. Like I don't play the victim. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to shame. There might be moments that my inner voice, that little voice is like, oh, I want to blame right now, and do those kinds of things. But really being in abundance is just knowing that your worthiness, it's a birthright. Nothing you have to prove, explain, justify ever again. And that is, my neuroscience coach, Ellen Petrie-Len, she's an absolute brilliant genius when it comes to some of these things on it, because I really believed that I was in this state of abundance in the last several years, that I had arrived. And then, like I said, like that humility of what my experience recently has been is like, okay, no, there's more. There was another level. I was trying to prove. I was trying to, explain or justify or save or whatever you want to call it. And so I think the abundance journey doesn't mean that you're not with suffering. Like we're humans and we're going to suffer. I suffer differently. I don't distract myself with shiny new things and avoid whatever pain is coming for me. I just sit in it. And that's really what I believe abundance is about, is just radical acceptance and total detachment from outcomes. I don't get disappointed. That's not an emotion that I really have anymore. It's more sadness or grief, but it's not, it's not the same. And so I just think that experience when you're in abundance is that you do get to see, you get to see your brain drop into scarcity a lot easier and that kind of thing. So it embodies it all, from health to wealth to relationships and love and goodness and everything else in the world.
I am so appreciative that you specifically said it does not mean that you're not without pain. Like,
Oh,
just because we have abundance doesn't mean the world is all perfect
yeah.
for us, right? Like,
Yeah.
we still are going through this life human experience. And it's just that when you're in that state, you you can appreciate the dark as much as you can the
Yeah.
light, because you know it's part of the journey.
Yep.
um, and I think it just, you can look at it from a completely different place.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's probably what I've been writing on most recently, is just how do you navigate seasons of, discomfort or grief or loss or whatnot, and stay in abundance, because the greatest thing that we don't ever want to drop into is depression, right? So when we look at what is depression, it's the thoughts become the emotions, and they happen for so long that you lose the power over your own body. And so understanding, I'm a big hacker. I'm always hacking my hormones. You'll see me rub my arms a lot, like get my oxytocin going, or I make sure my endorphins stay high and my gut stays healthy. But I'm gonna do more of those things when I'm in a season. So I'm gonna double up on my self-care and just give myself the grace of knowing, like, this too shall pass. And there will be some sort of transcendence of the pain that I'm feeling in this moment eventually. Not having any expectation or impatience to when it might come, because that will happen too. Because it's like, oh, I'd much rather go distract myself. Like, I'd much rather do that. And we can't. I mean, we rob ourselves of the richness of pain when we do that.
Ooh, yes, so true. I'm so glad that you were here and sharing all of this with us, because so many big nuggets that you dropped in here. So thank you. Uh,
Yeah.
Tell us about your pop-up podcast.
Yes, I would love to. So I've got a 3-part pop-up podcast for you. That's just downloadthepod.com, and it's going to go through some of the deeper strategies on overcoming the top 3 ways that we sabotage ourselves in life and in business. And then, you're always welcome to connect with me at kellyresendez.com. That's going to get all my social connections and all of that goodness and whatnot. So, and if somebody's interested in Go Abundance Women, because it truly is just a community of amazing, ambitious women that we've got great events that you can come to as a guest as well. You can just check out goabundancewomen.com too.
Awesome. We'll make sure that everything is in the show notes so people can connect with you. I would love to have you back on to do an entire episode on hormones. And
Love it.
you mentioned a couple things already, and I'm like,
love it.
what? We could go another hour.
Oh my goodness. I can talk about it for days. Seriously. It is, what I would just leave you with on that topic before I come back. You must take personal responsibility, and you will not find very many Western medicine doctors that will catch hormone imbalances before they happen. They wait for devastating things. And unfortunately, my sister is going to be in a mental institution for a really long time. So I have tasted what it's like for somebody not to put their well-being first and to depend on an anti-psychiatric to make them feel better, when we really don't know what was going on at the deep level. And so you have to take responsibility. Like, just get out there. There's so many great books out there. The book, The New Menopause, I can't, just recommend it enough. It just takes a different approach, because there's so many, just incorrect studies that have scared people away from balancing their own bodies.
Ooh, I have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know for me, like, I sort of teeter between Eastern and Western medicine, right?
Yeah.
And my experience has been, I just get treated to treat side effects, and like, you're just chasing symptoms and never actually getting to root causes. And that unsettling, it's very unsettling to me. Like, I just want to feel good, and I think that's a lot of us just want to wake up and feel good and be able to live the life we want to live and be happy. So
what I'd say with that, top thing, reduce inflammation. Go Google the anti-inflammatory diet and live by it. Take sugar out. Sugar is the worst thing that we put in our body today, unless you're doing coke or heroin or something like that. And then second thing is really get baselines for your hormones, your thyroid, your gut health, that kind of thing. And don't look at the numbers that Western medicine uses. They are not right. They have allotted for an increase in body's growing over time, like they've really adjusted them. And then the third thing is just, you know, get out in nature, walk, do the things that don't cost any money to get those endorphins going, because there's nothing that makes you feel better than that. And then the fourth thing is just connect with like-minded people that are just loving, and remove the toxic vampires from your life. Like, set some really solid boundaries and standards for how people treat you. And that makes all the difference in the world. Just those four things alone.
Oh,
I
so
didn't even get into
simple.
Yes, it is. It's simple, but it's not easy. You have to make a commitment and surround yourself with people that are going to hold you to it, because you are going to go to the familiar. Like, one of the amazing speakers on the documentary that I'm doing, Marissa Peer, has done so much work in this area. If you check her out on
I
YouTube,
love Marissa Peer's
her
work.
biggest thing is all on how much familiarity your brain wants. So if it's familiar to you to be unhealthy, or to believe you're unhealthy or not, that it's going to go that direction. You got to rewire the whole thing. And meditation is what's done it for me.
I love it. When can we expect the documentary?
I'm gonna guess like early 2025. That's all I
Okay.
can say at this
Yeah,
point.
so let's
So
know. I'm
yes,
super pumped
I'm
for
so
you.
excited.
And your next
Yep.
book.
Next book, I'm gonna say early 2025 too.
Ooh, 2025 is gonna be a
Yep,
big year for
2025 is the
you.
year. Yes,
All right.
yes.
Kelly Resendez, thank you so much for
Oh
joining
my
us
gosh,
tonight.
Elizabeth, wonderful way to end my day out here in California.
And we'll have you back on. We'll talk
Yes,
about
I love
hormones.
it.
I love it. Guys, we're going to wrap up the way we do every episode. Remember, you are never stuck. You are never lost. And you are never, ever alone. At any given moment, you can use your power to pivot, make a new choice, and start again. And I will talk with everyone on the next episode.